Joining me today, editorial director of the Huffington Post Media Group and an MSNBC political analyst, Howard Fineman, contributing editor of The Root, Janell Ross, congressional reporter at Talking Points Memo, Sahil Kapur, and Washington Post columnist and MSNBC contributor, Jonathan Capehart. Howard, I feel as if I revealed my thesis for this discussion, which is basically something that Politico wrote about a few weeks ago, which is the importance and the difficulty of having these sort of red state governors in place with their agendas as President Obama is trying to move forward with his big legislative priorities for the second term.
Well, this goes under the category of no good deed goes unpunished.
Right, exactly.
Because I think the president was reasonably, in these pieces of legislation and in these policies, trying to acknowledge the role of the states and trying to counter the notion that, of course, the Tea Party people propagated every instant, that he's some kind of dictator throwing thunderbolts down out of the sky in Washington.
Yeah.
He's not. This is a federal system, and that means the states are involved. And that's as it should be. And I think more power to him, or rather more kudos to him, for wanting to do it that way. Some states are participating in the health care markets, some are not. The feds will do it if the states don't. On immigration, there's a role for the states, and I think going to be an expanded role for the states in any kind of reform. And on health care, the interesting thing to me is that a lot of the business community wants Obamacare to go through. And by business community, I mean hospitals, insurers, healthcare networks. They want more customers. So they went to this Republican red state governor and said, you know what? This is pro-business, be for it. And she was.
And I think to Howard's point, Sahil, the notion that no good deed goes unpunished. Look, Jan Brewer is expanding the Medicaid rolls, which I think is a good move. There's very little that I think that Jan Brewer does that is good. This is a good thing. 55,000 low-income Arizonans are going to have access to health care. It will be interesting, sort of as an experiment, as the ACA is rolled out. In states where, for example, Wisconsin and Minnesota, one state is opting in, one state is not really opting in. And for residents of those states to see what's happening just a few miles over, either with people being denied health care or people getting it.
That's absolutely right. I mean, I think it's going to be a fascinating dynamic this time because the president and Jan Brewer may be arch rivals on immigration, but they're best buddies on Medicaid. There's been no stronger warrior.
There will be no finger wagging on Medicaid.
Exactly. You'd probably give him a hug first before.
Maybe not a hug. That is, I think, wildly optimistic.
On Medicaid, though, it's the deal is really, really good, and it's hard for governors to pass it up. And she recognized this. That's why she was such a warrior for this in her state. Did things that no other governor has done, especially no Republican governor has done. Folks like Rick Scott and Rick Snyder won it in Florida and Michigan. They have not gone to these lengths to do it, despite the pressure they're facing. I mean, okay, so we've now given Jan Brewer her kudos, Janelle, right. But then there are all sorts of other terrible things that Jan Brewer is shepherding through in the state of Arizona. And I think the sort of voter suppression piece is really interesting. When we talk about the efforts that the president and that the attorney general are making to, if not unwind, then to stop the voter suppression efforts happening literally all over the country. The fact that the Arizona state legislature is trying to make districts less competitive by putting minorities all in one quadrant and everybody else in another. It's amazing to me that there is no bashfulness in what is clearly a bastardization of democracy in the democratic process.
It is amazing. I think bashfulness is there. We're well beyond that point.
Yeah, I think so.
We're well beyond that point. We're into the, people are interested in finding crafty ways to affect the same ends, which is ultimately to limit the voting power of growing minority populations. And in states like Arizona, Arizona was one of the states where there were some real expectations that there might be some real turnover in 2012. There were hundreds of thousands of new minority voters registered to vote in 2012. So these things are not coincidental.
Jonathan, I want to talk, I would be remiss in this segment if I did not talk about the finger wag. And it's amazing to me, that, okay, there was no apology, but I suppose bashfulness and apologies are no longer par for the course in our partisan world. But the idea that Jan Brewer can fundraise off of that, and that this has become almost like a rallying cry for people who don't don't like the president. And the sort of, we talk a lot about the respect that should be given the commander-in-chief, the highest office in our land. I wonder what you think. They're going to meet on the tarmac apparently again today. I don't think we'll see the finger wag, but it was, I think, almost like sort of a line in the sand in an AD-BC kind of thing. This is how a state governor is treating the president of the United States.
It was incredibly disrespectful. Incredibly disrespectful. But it played to Jan Brewer's base. It played to the Tea Party base that hates the president so much that they don't even have respect for the office, it seems, anymore. They hate him so much. And, her wagging her finger, it's not only wagging her finger at the president, but a lot of people saw it as her wagging her finger at this president who is also black, who should not be there. Right. And there's that strain there, and I'm going to get in trouble, and I don't care, because you just showed the picture there. The idea that someone could do that to the president is just so off-putting. But hey, she can raise money off it. She'll raise tons of money off it. There are still people out there who hate the president. And, look, more power to her. The president is one of these people who can compartment. I
don't know that I say more power to denigrating the office.
Not denigrating the office, but look, she's going to do what she's going to do. And the president is going to arrive in Arizona. She's going to meet him on the tarmac. And as we were just talking here, she's his best friend on Obamacare, and he'll be focused on...
Maybe he should be doing the finger wagging and saying, hey,
to see that.
How about that ACA, huh?
Aside from the fact that we're now living in a world of signs and symbols where finger wags and so forth get tweeted out as pictures all over the world and tell volumes, which is interesting. I mean, the president's answer to the finger wag was, I think, that he got elected by a pretty healthy margin after the finger wag.
Finger wag.
So
he gave like two double snaps.
He could do a different kind of finger wag if he wanted to.
Around the world and back snap.
Exactly.
I'm not going to say what that looks like, but you know what that other finger wag
looks
like. Digital expression.
Well, but Sahil, I want to ask your opinion. Like, this is, we're also neglecting to discuss why the president is in Arizona, because this is part of his grand sort of economic, we're turning the national conversation back to the economy and specifically the housing market, which has rebounded in Arizona at higher levels than it has in the rest of the country. But there's still a question over whether low-income, poor Arizonans are really sort of, whether the housing market has sort of included them in its recovery and rebound.
Right. And so to view this from the bigger picture, to step back and see what this is really about, is what Democrats have been talking about, their message, what their message should be throughout this August recess. And that's, we're living in an era right now, and the story of this generation is going to be stagnating wages, income inequality, and the decline of the American dream. And Democrats desperately and badly want to be on the right side of this and want to show that they have the right policies to recover from this, even though they're being blocked in Congress. So with regard to the housing policies he's going to talk about, it's a mix of things he's already proposed and some new ideas. Most of them, the really important things and the major things, he has to get through Congress, and that's going to be difficult. Things like letting homeowners refinance their mortgages and shifting some of the burden to lenders. Some of the things he can do his own administratively, like cracking down on wrongful foreclosures.
I will say one thing, and I think it's important to focus, I really think it's important to focus on the issue of income inequality. I really think we should be talking about housing recovery. I think we should be talking about minimum wage. I think these are all really important issues. That said, Howard, the ACA is rolling out in like T-minus however many days, 50, 60, my math is terrible.
1st.
Yes, exactly. You can do the math.
I can't.
And part of me is wondering, is there a sort of sly nod to the success, the fact that Jan Brewer has expanded Medicaid? Can the president bring that up? And should he be more sort of on message with regard to that rollout and sort of making that his message for the next 50 days rather than this other one? Or is it all part and parcel of a larger, broader theme?
I think he's going to, in effect, say, you know what, this is complicated. This is a big country. It's a complex place. We got to move as fast as we can wherever we can. What fascinates me about what he's going to say out there today is that he wants to dismantle both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which were supposed to be government-funded ways to help not poor people, but help struggling middle-class people get government-supported mortgages. He's saying, you know what, that ended up being a situation where it was government bailout for rich people, and we don't want it anymore. You know, let the free market determine both the risks and the rewards of mortgage lending, which is actually, in a way, a kind of conservative
yes.
position, but it's coming from the head of, you know what, we as taxpayers had to spend tens of billions of dollars on you guys.
Right.
We're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
And I find, so it's a complex time, both geographically and ideologically. And I think the president, one of the good qualities that Barack Obama has is patience. He plays a deep game and he plays a long game.
Yeah, he does. And he has certainly had quite a bit of patience up until this point.
Right.
We will see what the president has to say in just a few hours. You can watch the president's speech in Arizona right here on MSNBC. Martin Bashir.